Hey Steve, how are you
Hey,
doing?
Paul. How are you, man? I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Long
doing
time.
great. Yeah, long time no see. When was it, Singapore? 2018, 2019, something like that?
You came to the Singapore one, right?
Yeah. I think it was 2019.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah,
it's about the Singapore is probably yes, I think it's 2019.
yeah. Then
Well,
it's been
6 years
like
since.
6, 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Time
Wow, wow,
flies.
wow.
Time absolutely flies.
I know, right?
All good with the
Um,
the lawsuit and all that stuff?
yeah, it's actually going pretty well, so it's good, bro.
Okay, I'm glad. Well, if you want, we can just get straight into it to make the most of our time.
Sure.
You actually have a very impressive background that I think a lot of people in the make money online space they don't have. You got in 2007 on selling on eBay. Then in 2008 you got into e-commerce. You scaled up to half a million a month. Then in 2010, 2011 you founded your own startups and you did that for a few years. And then you went back to e-commerce again in 2016, and that's when you scaled to 340K a day, which is very impressive. That's actually the thing that got me to go to the mastermind, because I scaled to 100K a month and I was like, these guys are doing that in a day, so let me go and learn from them. But one thing that I was really curious about that is how much different was doing e-commerce in 2008 compared to like 2016 and now. Like that must been completely different. It must have been wild to do it back then.
I think fundamentally marketing is a little bit different at a point of
Mm-hmm.
time. For example, back in 2008, you don't really have newsfeed ads at all.
Yeah.
There's no video ads. Everything is just static image ads, and also the formats that's available on Facebook is also drastically very different. Right. I would say also competition is also not as competitive at a point of time because like e-commerce it by itself wasn't really popular at a point of time, right? There's people that's doing it. There is like I don't think even Shopify was like even available at a point of time. At a point of time, I was using WordPress. I was using like a lot of like HTML sites to kind
Yeah.
of just build those
Yeah.
things. So it's just kind of crazy how like over time things gets easier and easier. So I think nowadays, right now, the landscape is drastically very different compared to like early days. And I feel it's definitely very more much in the favor of people who are starting out. You don't have to mess with a lot of things that are technical, which is it doesn't pushes the needle forward, right? But at the point of time, there's no AI, there's no like, a lot of like good communities that you can just go for, get
Yeah.
information and whatnot. So I would say there's pros and cons. I think the pros in the early days is just there's less competition,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And nowadays, I think the barrier to entry is just much lower to get into. You don't have to deal with a lot of things, but you have to deal with the consequences of like, because the barrier to entry is lower. So more people are getting into the space. So you're actually competing with a lot of more people within, the marketing space. And of course, the Facebook ads side of things is just going to get more and more competitive. But yeah, I don't think fundamentally selling the product just has gotten more and more sophisticated because in the past people would like people would just get like click into your Facebook ads because there's not a lot of people running the same things. But
Yeah.
nowadays you have so many people trying to compete against each other, so you have to get really more creative, and the amount of like availability of those creatives is so much more sophisticated nowadays compared to before. And people are just kind of like getting more, especially consumers, they're getting smarter and smarter,
Yeah.
right? So as they evolve, the market has also evolved at the same time. But I think it's better. I would say it's better to kind of like be in the current time frame right now because you just get so much access to like for example AI. It just changes the whole landscape
Yeah.
so much more compared to back in those days.
Does it happen to you? Like, at least for me, it happens. Like, yes, now it's better, but sometimes I feel like I romanticize it, and I cannot. It gives me nostalgia, to think back of the early
Mhm.
days. There's something cool about it. Something also that I would love to hear about the startups that you had. I think it was like one that was called Crayos, which closed in
Yes.
2014. And
Yeah.
you had another one that was on consumer electronics that closed in 2015. Could you talk
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
about those? Because I tried to look up online some more information about exactly what they were. And also I would be interested to learn like what is it that you learned from those?
I think for Krios, we did the campaign in 2012, 2013. We raised 1.5 million. You could just search it on Google. It's widely available. Like it's one of the most funded hardware startups back in those days on Indiegogo. So we did 1.5 million dollars in crowdfunding within 30 days. Within the first 24 hours, we hit 100K, which was pretty, like, at the point of time, it was pretty damn good, for a hardware startup with no funding, whatnot. I think the biggest lesson I've learned at a point of time was manufacturing, right? So we collaborated with a partner who was supposed to sell us a ODM solution, basically meaning, everything's already done up, the systems, the app, the product itself, and all we need to do is just kind of like repackage it, a little bit like, white labeling in some way, shape, or form. And we're kind of their first client, right? And this was working with a friend whom I've known across the years. So, naturally I had a little bit more trust because like I thought like it's legit, we have worked before in some other projects. But I think what I've learned is you definitely need to have a lot more due diligence done, whomever you're working with, especially for a big project. Because honestly, when we launched it, we didn't expect it to go so well. Right? We thought we were probably going to sell, $1, $2, $300,000 worth of like crowdfunding, but we didn't know we're going to do like 1.5 million. So obviously, when we did 1.5 million, there's a lot more attention from the press.
Right.
Oh, this hardware company is going to be the new iWatch killer, for example. So we had a lot of press, right? So obviously, when there's a lot of press, there's a lot of eyeballs and attention on the project itself. And when you weren't able to deliver what you promised, there's going to be a lot of backlash. So the company that we worked with, unfortunately, didn't have the capacity, or they didn't have the experience that they promised us. Oh, you're going to get all this entire function of the product itself. So I think what I've learned is like you really need to be very, very mindful on who you're working with, especially like if you're building a product from scratch, right? It's fundamentally you need to know whether or not they can deliver this product, right? What is their background? For example, if it's a manufacturer, if it's a ODM like company, you have to visit like their factory. So we went to the factory and whatnot. So eventually we realized it's a lot of smokes and mirrors. So they basically collaborated with the manufacturing plant in China. So when we visited, it's like, oh, it's a big factory, it has all of this, but we came to realize it's only just one. They only gave him one small office because they were working with him, right? So technically that is not their factory, right? And that happens a lot in like manufacturing, because a lot of agencies in China, they say, oh, this is my factory, but it's actually not. So I think like if we were to do like proper due diligence, I think we would have found out even more. But I think we were just kind of like thought we just kind of trusted him because like he was a friend, and of course, he was in the electronics business before, and he was able to show us some prototype pretty quickly. And we thought, okay, sure, let's work together and whatnot. And of course, I think I failed as a CEO because I was just kind of like thinking, oh, this manufacturer, because I chose the manufacturer, right? And this is probably one of if not the most the most important decision, because if we were to work with someone that has the experience, like the resources to deliver this product could have potentially went super well, right? So that was kind of like I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned at a point of time. And then when we launched the second product, like Creos, we closed down Creos because we ran out of cash flow. So we decided to launch another like startup, right? Also in the hardware business. So I think the biggest lesson I've learned here is like don't get into asset heavy business when you're kind of like starting out. But at the point of time, I don't think I'm starting out. So there's some sort of like confidence or ego. I would say probably more ego, because like, oh, I thought I've done it before. If I could sell 1.5 million, I could do it again, right? So that was kind of the mindset. But at a point of time, there was just more and more competition selling into the same product. But for Krios, we were kind of entirely new. Like our product is like kind of like special in a sense. We're kind of the first few to the market. So there was a lot of hype in the Internet of Things, IoT, kind of like hardware business at a point of time. But when we launched the second product, we kind of missed out because we were copying. This time we were copying a product that's already on the market, and we thought we just wanted to compete on the pricing part of things. But we realized that hey, people do not only just buy into a price point, right? Price is just one factor of the product. But at a point of time, because we thought that we want to have the product ready. We want to make sure we develop the entire product ready. We want to have stock, then we launch. Because like it's not really crowdfunding, but we want to use the crowdfunding to kind of like pre-sell those products. But we also we are obsessing with the customer experience, because like we did it with Curios. It was like, oh shit, we didn't have a product, but we launched it super well. So this time around, we wanted to do things differently. We wanted to kind of make sure the product's ready. Then we do the pre-sale. Then we're able to deliver the product within 7 days. Word of mouth and whatnot. So we overestimated our ability to market the product because we had limited cash flow. So we went all in because we thought we're going to sell super well. So we stocked up like, a few $100,000 worth of inventory because we want to get the lowest price, because we're trying to compete on the price level, right? So we're kind of like taking the business model from Xiaomi, right? Xiaomi was like super, kind of like, cheap, good product with a really like competitive price point. So we're kind of modeling that business model, but we don't have the cash flow to kind of do so. Right, so we're able to like get really competitive pricing for manufacturing, our packaging, our hardwares and everything. But when we kept too little cash flow to kind of like make it a super good successful launch, right? So we were able to sell a portion only of our products, which kind of ties into our runway. So we didn't have sufficient runway to kind of continuously test out the product and give it a fair shot. And in late 2015, I kind of lost everything because like, I just like my mindset at the point of time was just like, if you want to do it, just go all in, right? It doesn't matter if it's like, every single cent. So I poured every single last dollar that I have into the company. And that basically set me back to zero at a point of time. Yeah.
Going back, if you could go back to that time, are there signs that you can see now that would have been able to let you know that it was not a good idea to go all in? Like, were there some indications that was not a smart thing to do?
I would say going all in is a mindset, right? It's a mindset, but I think going all in with everything that I have with financial, like with all my capital, I don't think it's really a smart thing to do, because like that basically doesn't allow you a second shot, right? But sometimes like the reason why I went all in is also I was really inspired by all this like, amazing founders from all around the world. They say, oh, you have to go all in. Yeah, like a lot of amazing founders basically have they're able to tell their story because they are part of the top 0.00 few percent that made it, right? But a lot of people that didn't get to share their stories, the 99.99 that went all in and failed, right? Exactly. So in hindsight, I would say having a plan B in some way, shape or form, or diversifying your risk would definitely help. But there's also a fundamental difference on people who go all in and people who don't go all in, because the mindset is drastically very, very different. But if I was to kind of like go back in time, I'll still go through the same experience, because I think going through the same experience allows me to understand the importance of, diversifying, learning some experience from, okay, sure, I can go all in this business, but I have to make sure that I have sufficient capital to kind of like, restart my business, or after I lose everything in this business. So I have to probably segregate or split out the capital in some ways, just so that I have sufficient runway to make sure that I can give this product a fair shot. Because like if you're launching your own brand, you're R&Ding your own product, you're going to take like 4 or 5, 6 months to actually build the product out, the packaging, the brand, like especially with hardware products, I feel it's extremely difficult, because like if you're not working with someone that has an ODM solution, or you have an amazing tech team, there's a lot of like things that can just go wrong, right? Because I was telling people, if you really sell a product, right, that's already available in the market, let's say it has absolutely no technical um, skill sets that you need to do to develop this product, right? All you need to do is take care of the brand and marketing and make sure you fulfill. That's done, right? But if you're dealing with developing your own product, right? You're not only you're dealing with tech, because tech is there's a lot of uncertainty with tech, right? Especially if you're building a hardware product. Not only you're dealing with like, let's say you're doing a Bluetooth connection. That simple Bluetooth connection, well, like there's available like protocols that you can integrate quickly, but you still need a lot of testing. You need to have like the hardware. You need to have the firmware of the product itself, the app layer as well. So you have to deal with so many different layers. So it just adds so much complexity into the product, which, you know, for someone who's like starting out in terms of building your own first product, I feel it's probably one of the worst choices to get into developing an electronic product. If I'm super well funded, if I have like a few $1 million in the bank that's funded by the VCs, that's a totally different story. But if you're building a product with like limited cash flow and limited funding, which is you're funding it yourself, I think it's probably one of, if not a lot, it's a very difficult business to kind of get into, like developing an electronic hardware product itself.
And in regards to deciding to close down a project and moving on to the next thing, how would you now differentiate between just like, okay, I'm going through a hard phase, like this is difficult and I just need to push through, or no, like this is actually like, this should be the end of it and I need to cut my losses and move on to the next thing?
I think a lot of people have very drastically different ways to approach this. For me, it's I want to make it as little emotions as possible. So for every project, I would have like, you know, kind of like my stop loss in terms of like trading, right? I have a stop loss. If I'll invest a maximum of $1 million for this project, right? The time frame is 12 months. Anything beyond, no. Like we want, unless we see like, you know, hope that okay, maybe right now, maybe 5 to 6 more months is gonna change the entire situation around, then yes, we would potentially put in more money. But if we have like, if we set out to say, okay, we're gonna spend this amount of money in 12 months, we're very clear with how much money we're gonna invest into marketing, runways, like overheads and whatnot. And if this stretches out at the point of time, we have already given our best shot, right? And if we have already given our best shot, then there's absolutely no regrets in terms of like, oh, should we continue? Should we not continue? Because founders are founders, right? We're emotionally attached to whatever we're building, right? So there's always those emotions that's like, oh, let's hang in there another month, let's borrow money. I think I've experienced that before. So last time when I closed down when I absolutely have to, because there's no more money in the bank, right? And I don't think that's the best way, to be honest, but I think it all boils down to if you're able to plan right from the start, when you're clear-headed, you know how much capital you have, how much capital you're willing to deploy to the project, and you are clear with yourself, okay, this is the maximum amount of time, because capital is just one part of the equation, right? Your time itself is also opportunity cost, right? A lot of people is like, oh shit, like yeah, I lost X amount of money, it's fine. But no, like you're not only losing money, you're also losing the potential that your time to invest into potential other projects, and you're not able to entertain those opportunities because you're kind of stuck with this project. So that is something that I've worked on and I use all the time across like my new projects, because at any point of time, like I realize sometimes the decisions that you make might not be the best decisions when you're kind of like emotional.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to be able to free yourself up, and it's like, okay, discuss this with your business partner. If you're a solo entrepreneur, easier. Like if you have a business partner, I think it's best to kind of like sit things down right from the beginning. Right. All right. How much we're going to invest, how much time, set that stop loss in place. Then whatever that arises, I'll just go with the flow.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. When you got back into e-commerce in 2016, I know you did that for a few years, and in 2018, 2019, that's when you were crushing it. But how does the timeline continue? That's what I don't know. What did you do after those years, like 2020, 21, 22? What have you been working on? Did you continue to do e-commerce?
I think I realized that it's easier like to help people service e-commerce entrepreneurs, right? So as I was building my personal brand in 2017 to 2020, I think what's best that came out of all of this e-commerce was I started building the entire ecosystem, right? I started expanding my business into education, right? Agency, fulfillment, advisory, all these different kind of like, and softwares most importantly, right? And I realized that, hey, like there is definitely more people who wants to get into e-commerce than people like, for example, myself. Because at the point of time, I was doing a lot of like DTC, but I realized B2B is also a great business to be in, right? So I realized, okay, I can do like maybe like a few thousand orders per day, no problem. But if I was servicing people, or if I can service like 10 to 20 or 30 people that are like me in the space, I could ship like 30, 40, 50K orders per day, right? And that, and as you do e-commerce, you know, like not every single day, like we're gonna make money with e-com. Sometimes, like if you have a bad day with Facebook ads, you're gonna lose money. But with a fulfillment company, I don't care. I make money every single order. I don't care if my client is losing money, they still have to ship their orders to their clients, right? So I realize it's best in the best of both worlds if you have a DTC business, yet you also have the B2B business. The reason why I have to slow down on my DTC or my drop shipping is because it's a conflict of interest. I cannot be selling to the market, competing with my clients, yet I fulfill for them at the same time. So we had problems because we lost clients that say, "Oh shit, you're also in the business," right? Basically, because if I'm in the B2B business, I basically know what orders are going to sell super well for my clients. So for me to sell if for me to be in that business as well is not a good look for my clients. So eventually we closed down the drop shipping business because we are onboarding so much more clients from my network that trust us with fulfillment. Right. So the fulfillment business and back then till now has grown pretty significantly. On average, we're shipping about 20 to 40,000 orders per day right now for our clients. So that's been kind of like more behind the scenes. I've never talked about it a lot, to be honest, because like, I'll kind of say I'm kind of out of the e-commerce space in the DTC realm, but I'm still heavily involved in the B2B space. And we still have like a email marketing agency, which I don't run. My business partner runs that. We have almost 100 employees running that. We pretty much only service like brand clients, right? We don't take on any like drop shipping clients. And I think till date, from launch till now, we have generated over $300 million in email revenue for the e-commerce brands. So, and the funny thing here is like I'm not the founder of this agency, right? The reason why I'm able to kind of like invest, acquire significant stakes into all these different companies is because of my ecosystem and because of my personal brand, right? So I realized there's way easier ways to make money than drop shipping, right? From there, I was able to acquire more stakes, equities in different companies. I was able to kind of come across a lot more different business partners. So 2000, I think during 2020 to 2000. We built several business. One of them was Intercart. Were you a user at a point of time?
Yeah,
Intercart.
yeah.
Yeah. So that software company we built in 2018. I think across 4 years before we were shut down. I think across 4 years we did over $1 billion in GMV for our users, which is people like yourself, e-commerce entrepreneurs. And I realized, oh shit, we're onto something, right? We're onto something. So that kind of made me realize that building, I think if you would kind of look at the gold rush concept, right? There's people that's going for digging the gold, and there's people that's helping people to dig for the gold. It's two different, drastically different concepts. But you realize the people that's building the ecosystem eventually makes a lot more money versus people that's going into digging the gold for themselves. Sure, there's a lot of potentially like outliers that kind of break through and they build huge DTC businesses. That's great. But for me, it's like I prefer to work on stability, whereby my business grows 10, 20, 30% every single year versus like, okay, 0 to 300% in a year. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of like the fundamental difference on how I approach business these days versus I'm not after showing people, oh, here's my 366, it's 360,000, not 340,000, by the way, but it doesn't matter. But just saying that the $360,000 was great at the point of time, but nowadays, I would say my fulfillment comes from, okay, how many orders have we shipped for our clients, not how much have I done, because that's kind of like the fundamental difference. And for example, my community in the future that I want to build, it's not about, oh, who's Steve and Evan, who they are, but it's who are the people that's within the community, right? So that's the fundamental shift in like how I've evolved across the years, from being the face to like behind the scenes to building the business that's more people. That's not, I'm not after the fame or like, you know, the clout anymore. But I think it's also fundamentally the difference and the growth within myself over the years. And I've seen that this kind of businesses thrive, doesn't matter like through hard times. We don't care. Like, sure, Facebook gets difficult, you know, like sometimes there's different algo, new updates and whatnot. Sure, it gets difficult, but our clients are smart people. You know what I mean? Like, and we diversify our risk across so many different clients. So we don't have concentration risk. If all my clients is just one or two clients, sure, that's high, extremely high risk. But if I diversify to a lot of different clients who's kind of crushing and we building something to support their growth, I think that makes a lot more sense for us eventually to kind of like have an umbrella of companies that's kind of like revolving around e-com, you know, info, social, softwares and whatnot. I think that's kind of like where we're working towards to in the next few years.
You mentioned Ivan. Is he still like your brother, your main business partner?
Yeah. We do everything together. Like ever since we started working together, Evan has always been a critical part of the business, right? So Evan is more behind the scenes, more operational execution, while I'm more the visionary, you know, the strategist on how we want to approach the business. For example, before we even had all the softwares, fulfillment, agency, education, we have really mapped out kind of like the master plan. Okay, here's what we're working towards to in the next 3 years, and how are we gonna go around doing. Okay, should we acquire? Should we build it from scratch? Should we collaborate with people in the space? So that's kind of like really clear on how we want to navigate this space. And eventually we just realized, hey, like why should we be selling our own products when we can help service like 100 e-commerce entrepreneurs that's freaking crushing it in the space, and just be the best support for them from behind the scenes.
And before, when you were explaining that whole thing of that transition to focusing more on B2B, you did mention that to some extent your personal brand did help you to get into that. But then why is it that you, in a way, paused the brand? Or at least from the outside, it looks like you paused the brand for a while and now you're getting back into it.
What a story. I think I wasn't really happy with my personal brand, you know, to be honest. Like a lot of people would think, oh, Steve, you made it, right? You sort of made it with your personal brand. You built all these companies. But I think I wasn't feeling authentic with the brand that I've built, right? I think it's something more like deeper, fundamentally for myself. I thought I made it, but internally I felt it wasn't me. It wasn't aligned. It wasn't something that I like being my personal brand. And which is why I think as a person myself, I have different values, different alignment. But sometimes to be the online face, you have to do some things that's not you. For example, you know, like I'm someone that I'm pretty low key in real life, but because of like being an online brand, you sort of have to start flashing your lifestyle, your cars, and all these different things, which is I kind of felt like a bit cringy So there was a lot of resistance internally. Like even though I thought I made it, I realized as I was digging deeper down the rabbit hole, I was just kind of like scratching my own chase for significance, right? I was chasing like the need to feel important, the need to feel like I've made it, right? The need to kind of to kind of be seen, because that was kind of like, this is something deep, like, linking from childhood, linking from upbringing, like, and I thought like I need to keep chasing, I need to keep building, I need to keep building my personal brand. I need more people to know me, which is why, you probably saw the screenshot. Oh, it's like, oh shit, I did 360,000. But now it's like, for me, it's like, I don't care. I don't care if people know me for 360 or not, because I want people to know me for the value that I brought to them, like for the knowledge, for the value that I've shared online, right? For the impact that I've given, like for the impact through my products, through like my content or whichever. I think that's more meaningful for me. So as I realized at a point of time that wasn't really serving me, right? I decided to kind of take a step back from the public, right? So I decided to kind of back down from being the front, and I started trying to find people to be the face for me in the front, right? Which led me to like different, like the Capital Club business, which led me to look Belmar, because I felt, oh, maybe it's better for me to hide behind somebody, because I just don't want the attention. It's too much. So that's why, that's the main reason why I decided to kind of like stop building my personal brand, because I think it was also a identity crisis, right? Because I've achieved everything I wanted during that time, but I just didn't feel like it's giving me any fulfillment, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the main reason. Yeah.
Is there any other thing, because that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, like if your definition of success, business success, has changed, and you obviously just mentioned that it's more about impact. Are there any other metrics that you look for, like, oh, this a business that I'm proud of, that I like?
I think nowadays, for definitely, I don't want to sound like money is not important. Money is definitely one of the top factors for any business that I do. But the main difference that I do now versus then is like, is this a business that I would absolutely enjoy building? Is it fun? Right? That's the question that I'll ask myself first before getting into it. Is this something that is gonna be like play for me? Right? If it's not fun, then I wouldn't consider it, right? Because it's not going to be aligned. Because last time is, for me, it's just like, if it makes money, I'll do it, right? I'll do it. But nowadays, that's the main difference. I would definitely explore.
And in regards to building these businesses, I would say the number one takeaway that I got from the Singapore mastermind was the importance of systems, because I both saw from you and your brother how you basically structure your entire organization, how everything was so systematic. Because also something that I usually say is that I think a lot of online entrepreneurs, they don't actually have a business, they have a glorified job. They're like freelancers that they're kind of doing everything. And also, I saw it from some people there. There were some guys from Australia there at the mastermind. I think that they were also crushing it, and they also showed me the behind the scenes of how they were doing everything. Again, like I was just blown away by the systems. But something that, at least from my perspective, I feel like, how would you recommend someone to learn how to build good systems? Because, for example, if someone wants to learn marketing and copywriting, that's very easy, right? You go on YouTube and there's a lot of videos and a lot of good content, in my opinion. But when it comes to building systems, at least from my knowledge, I don't think there's that much good stuff out there, if you know what I mean.
I think there's reasons why there's even a lot of things out there as well for operation systems, because it's not sexy.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to make you more money. Operations and systems only comes in for people who has already made a certain level of money. Right. It's not going to, no, being an absolute beast with like operations and systems, it's not going to get you from 0 to 1. It's more for people that's 1 to 2. So people like yourself, people, which is why my mastermind in the past appeals to people that are already at a certain level in their business. Like we don't let people that's making like 5 to 10K or 100K per month to come, because like it wouldn't really help their business. But people who are at least doing like 100 to 3, 400K per month, they would appreciate it, and they would understand the importance of like systemizing a lot of things, because as you said, a lot of people treat this like a side hobby, or probably they got lucky a little bit. They got their first 7-figure product and they feel like, oh shit, it's all about themselves. But what you said here resonates a lot, because like a lot of people just think that they could operate with a one-man show, right? Sure, they can, but they're gonna have a hard time to scale the business. And I think what's best to build systems is actually just having the awareness, the trust that you could actually delegate out low-level activities to people that can do the job better than you, right? It really isn't too complicated, to be honest, right? There's only two things that I usually share to people. First is the awareness to understand that you have more important things to do, right? If you understand that fundamental concept that you are so much worth, you're worth so much more, you wouldn't want to do things like, oh, reply to customer support, do all those things, because like a lot of people that do not build systems is because they don't trust people. They have a trust issue. They think that only themselves can do the job best, right? So once they have the mindset shift, it starts to get easy, right? It's more about getting good at interviewing people, is getting good at identifying people who you can bring to the team, the talents, getting good at interviews, which are all skill sets that gets better and better as you do and put in more reps, right? It's not rocket science. And systems, you don't really have to build extremely complicated systems right from day one. And as a matter of fact, now with the right mindset and intention, and with ChatGPT, anyone can build like systems like so easy. Last time, it's definitely harder. Now with ChatGPT, list down your problems, list down your objectives, what you're trying to achieve here. You can get entire operational thing done within like 30 minutes to an hour, right? It's so much easy. So I don't think operations right now, it's hard, right? It's all about whether or not the founder himself has the awareness or has the intention to kind of execute on it, right? Because all he needs to do is just probably take out like 3 to 4 hours for that week to kind of like, document every single thing, do Loom videos and identify which are those things that actually takes out most time for himself, right? So one exercise that I usually do is like to get people like, hey, list down every single thing that you're doing across the entire week, right? Time yourself, put it like track yourself, track your time. And as you start measuring across the week, you realize, oh shit, maybe checking emails is taking me like freaking like 6 hours per week. Oh, so how could you optimize your emails, right? How do you go from like maybe 6 hours a week to maybe like 1 or 2 hours, right? Could you implement some AI tools? Could you have your assistant, categorize them in a way that only the top emails that requires your attention do it? Oh, maybe you're spending like 20 hours a month on unnecessary meetings, right? You cannot optimize things that you do not measure, right? So you have to measure things that you want to optimize. So I think that's how I see things. And the reason why people don't talk so much about systems is because it's not going to sell.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good sell. You only can sell to people who are actually doing maybe like $1 million a year and above. Anybody below $1 million a year, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do I need systems? No, like I need Facebook ads. That's the 0 to 1 part. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a different phase. Like everyone would experience different phases throughout their business, and it's just a matter of time that people would have to eventually embrace, delegation and implement systems and operations optimizations throughout their organization if they really want to, scale up from what they're doing.
And for those who are trying to go from 0 to 1, since you've seen the make money online space from every single angle, and you've been online for a long, long time, what do you think are some of the biggest lies they're being told online, but that no one is calling out?
Biggest lies. Wow. I would say I would say that the biggest lies is like probably downplaying how hard it is, right? I think a lot of people in the space kind of like make it sound so easy to kind of like, to make it. Sure, it's easy to make your first sale, right? But is it easy to make money? Right? You could make $100,000 and still probably lose 150,000. You know what I mean, right? I'm sure you know, right? So I think it's not really a scam, but it's really just a marketing strategy, right? To kind of like entice people to feel that, oh, I could also make it, right? But we all know 0 to 1 is actually the hardest, right? For me, like I feel 1 to 4, 1 to 3, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, it's easy for me. So for me to kind of help people, which is why my mastermind has a lot of like success rates, because that's exactly where I excel in. I help people scale. I help people double, triple, quadruple their business because they have already gotten past the hardest part, right? All they need to do is just learn, take reference from what I do in my business and execute it for themselves. They're gonna see their business double because they already gone through 0 to 1, which is like the creatives, the Facebook ads, and which is why you see like sure I talk a little bit in the past Facebook ads and all that stuff, right? But nowadays I don't talk about it because like if you want to learn Facebook ads, there's definitely people doing better, right? There's new creative systems. There's like different optimizations that you can do to kind of scale your Facebook ads. But I think a lot of companies are missing out that from probably like from 7 figures to 8 figures and for 8 figures to 9 figures a year, I think the biggest difference is like your capacity to scale with systems and operations. It's kind of like what makes the difference for like people that are trying to break out from like maybe doing 7 figure a year to like 8 figures and 8 figures a year to like probably like mid 8 figures to 9 figures a year.
Makes sense. Makes sense. One thing that I also did wanted to ask you, this is more like not so business like, but for people who struggle between like working too much and balancing fun and just living life, is there any advice or how do you see the whole thing with balance between work and life?
It really depends which stage they are at, right? If like for me, like if I'm 18 or I'm like, early 20s, I was like, I don't think there's something called work-life balance. For me, personally, for me, right? I think if you're 18 to 20, it's the best time of your age to really go fucking all in. Like no work-life balance. You should be sleeping. Like of course you don't go crazy until like you're unhealthy. You're like you're just dying. Like if you're going, if you're working till you're dying, it doesn't make any sense, right? What I mean is like you should really go spend as much time as possible with your business. But if you're at the age of like let's say 30 to 40, I definitely feel like more work-life balance is critical. Your happiness, you need to be building in a more long-term view, right? Because when you're 18 to 20, like sometimes like you're so driven and motivated, you don't really get burnt out. Like you don't really get burnt out because you have the whole adrenaline, you're young, you have your everything that's required. But when you're at 30 to 40, 50, like you have responsibilities, you have your kids, your family, you have a lot more responsibilities, right? So you need to configure yourself or optimize yourself for a long term, like a marathon. Sure, like when you're 18, 20, sure, like of course, don't neglect your health, don't work to a point whereby you neglect your health. But I think with 30 to 40, I think people should be really building things that truly inspire themselves. or something, building things towards like things that don't seem like work, right? I think that's something that I think is the best. I think the best feeling is to be working on something that doesn't even feel like work, right? It's something that, oh, like you could work on it like 24/7 and it doesn't feel tired at all. Sure, you feel tired, but you don't feel like it's like mentally draining yourself because you're so inspired building what you're building, right? I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people felt challenged to find. Like, so in the early days, I don't really care. Like whatever makes me money, I just go fucking in. Like I don't care if it makes me happy, not happy. I just fucking do it, right? But as you age, as you mature, and you start having more and more clarity into how your worldview has been like has changed, right? How you approach life, how you approach people, how you approach business. You start getting more and more clarity. What are your top highest values? What are the things that lights you up? What are the things that you do that energizes you? Then you will make a lot of like different choices in life, right? And having all those choices and experience and knowledge throughout all these years would help shape you to make better decisions into what do you want to do, right? So it's not easy. Like it's definitely not easy. I've spent so many years, going behind the scenes, trying to dig deeper into myself. But it's also an opportunity for me to kind of, take a step back. It's like, okay, like financial is great, business is great, myself not so good. Okay, let's take a back seat and see what's going on. Why am I not happy? Why am I not happy when I have achieved all the things that I want? I have my business, I have my cars, I have everything, I've watched everything, but it's like shit. What's wrong, right? And I feel that's the ultimate failure, to have everything that you want, but being miserable or not happy about it. I think that's ultimate failure. But without the ultimate failure, you wouldn't have the opportunity to go dig deeper down the rabbit hole, right? Because most people, if they're successful, so fun, I think good for me because I have friends who has been there and done that, right? So for me, it's easier in some way, shape, or form because, like, if not, I think I might have took a lot more time to really truly discover, what should I do? And of course, this whole Luke Belmar drama online actually pushed me further to kind of like identify, okay, the question you asked me, Paul, just now, like, oh, like, why do you stop building your personal brand, was only something recently I discovered why, right? Right. And that reason, and it's only because sometimes you wouldn't face those questions. It's hard, right? It's hard to ask difficult questions. And sometimes you don't even know, like you just stop, your behavior is just such overriding your actions, right? So for example, at the point of time, I didn't even know why I did that. I just knew I don't like to be the face, right? But I didn't ask why did I stop. So this time, because of the whole Luke Belmar thing, I was like, shit. I realized that, hey, I have a good personal brand at a point of time. I was probably one of the bigger like dropship e-com brands. And most people would think like, that's fucking stupid, right? Why do you stop at your peak, right? Like it was going so well. But I was like, no, like I'm happy to, like, I think I have that kind of like DGAF, don't give a fuck kind of mindset. Like, it's like, if I'm not happy, I'm not going to do it, right? So that gave me my space, my like some time off to can like really understand. So that resulted me in wanting to like put someone in the face, but I didn't clear the fundamental reason why. So I think everything happens for a reason. So all this pain or all this lessons or all this experience just forces you to face whatever is difficult and to kind of like make you more and more authentic to whomever you are.
I think that's a really good insight what you just said, that a lot of questions you can only answer them like in the future in hindsight. I think that's huge, absolutely huge. With the whole thing with Luke, instead of going over the details, because like I made a video about it, just reading the lawsuit and all that stuff. Maybe would it be more interesting of learning what are some of the things that you learned, some of the insights, some of the lessons that came out of that?
I think the biggest lesson is be logical when it comes to partnerships and not be emotional about things. I think part of the reason why is also because at the point of time, I don't think I like my personal brand, right? And probably I wasn't confident at the point of time. I was probably weak in thinking that, oh, maybe my personal brand is not as good as like what I perceive to be. So there was a lot of like insecurity thinking probably, oh, yeah, I built all this, but I'm not happy. Maybe it's not good. So I have a lot of like negative thoughts thinking like, oh, my personal brand is not good. Maybe I should build it differently and whatnot. And I think so that led me to think that I was infatuated with, oh, if someone could talk better, like if someone that is the face who's like better at speaking, like has American accent, is a white guy. Oh, maybe we could scale it much bigger, right? And I think that was kind of like my infatuation, my illusion. That I was thinking, oh, this is probably better, right? But I failed to see that actually the character, the story, my experience is actually that's what is the value in people following me. People don't follow me because of the things that I have. People follow me because of my experience, of my journey, of my story, right? So what I feel I could have done better was to be more objective when it comes to business partnerships, right? Like, for example, I would be able to identify, okay, what are you bringing to the table? Let's say we're going to the business together, right, Paul? I would say, okay, Paul, let's get on the same page. Tell me what you're bringing to the table. And whatever you're bringing to the table, how are you confident enough to make sure that what you say you're going to deliver? Right? What are the resources that you have to make this happen? What is your experience? Show me the numbers, right? Okay, for example, if you say that, oh, I've done this and this, sure, maybe part of the due diligence, we need to see what do you really have, right? Show me. But I think at the point of time, like because Luke Belmar was actually, he came to the mastermind. He was also like a student, right? Yeah. So when people like himself sort of like sent me screenshots like, hey, Steve, oh, I did my first 10K, 20K. Fundamentally, I'm always happy for like people like, who came to my mastermind and made it, right? Because like I see people like them, like kind of like my students. And as a teacher, right, I feel extremely happy for people. So I wouldn't say, hey, show me the domain, show me your store, show me your admin. No, I wouldn't say that, right? So in my mind, I would register, oh, this guy probably has already done like few $100,000 in their sales. He's done. So I think I allowed my emotions and trust to override what's logical, fundamentally that I should have done. I should have done more due diligence. But because of the friendship, because of the amount of years they've known each other. So now I don't care. I absolutely don't care how many years my relationship with you. If we're getting onto the bed together, you better let me see what you're bringing to the table. What experience do you have? It's not just like talks. And yeah, so I also learned that, people who talk a lot, who's absolutely charismatic in some ways in how they talk, not referring to Luke Belmar, but anyone that like talks a lot, that has some charm, or like it's also a display on, sometimes it might be a reflection of display of them being insecure, right? Because they don't have the substance that they claim to be. So they have to make it up in different forms, like, oh, being super good at talking, right? And you realize a lot of people who are like operators, executors, they don't talk shit. Yeah, they can't talk for shit. Yeah. Yeah, right? They're kind of like, they kind of, because they're so in their thing. Sure, there's like people who's like super good at talking, super good execution. They're probably like doing fucking well for their business. So with Luke, I think the biggest problem is like, he would make you feel that he has substance, but behind the scenes, he has no substance, right? I think in hindsight was part of my illusion from my personal thing that I didn't solve, which is why I wanted to work with someone that I thought could be a good face for Capital Club. So I think the biggest lesson here is just to be more grounded and logical when it comes to any business partnerships. don't take it with infatuation, because a lot of things like people would think, oh wow, like partnering up with this guy or business is gonna scale 100 million to no. Set all that aside and just be clear. Okay, what are you bringing to the table? What am I bringing to the table? Let's get on the same page. Okay, you want a 50%? Why? Why do you want 50%? Right? What are you bringing to the table that justifies 50%? Right? Be absolutely clear. So I think part of the things that if you don't get clear with things, that is you're basically opening up yourself for disputes, for arguments, for feeling that's not fair, for feeling that your partner's going to feel not fair because of what you said and what you're doing. So I think that's kind of like the lessons that I learned from like this last experience.
Yeah. And if someone is looking to find a good business partner, you did just mention something to look out for the whole thing with persuasion and how they talk. Are there any other potential red flags that people should look for when trying to decide who's a good business partner?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That there's a lot of like, I think this also comes from being years in the experience of like an entrepreneur. You basically have a bullshit filter, right?
Yeah.
One thing I realized, people who name drops a lot has a like, oh, it's like, oh, I know this guy, that. Oh, I just met this guy. A lot of people who starts name dropping, be careful. Like that is a big red flag that I usually see for people who likes to name drop, right? People, I would people, if you're able to spend some time with them, see how they treat people, their friends, people around them, or how they treat waiters, right? Small actions, because like how you do something is how you do everything. If you treat so one of the biggest red flags that we saw with Belmar was how he treated his brother, his elder, his mentally and verbally abusive to people that he loved. Like, oh, you're a piece of shit. You're so fucking lazy. You're a loser. I'm gonna disnown you as a brother. It's like also. So when we saw that, I was like, oh shit. Evan was telling me like, oh, like if he can treat his own blood brother like this, which is Nate at a point of time, he would treat us like that, like what like I mean, it doesn't matter if his we're his mentor, or doesn't matter, like that is a character issue, right? Because how could you treat your brothers like that? How could you talk to your brother with such condescending and verbal, or all this like vulgarities? I don't tell my brother like, hey, fuck you. No, I don't. Like it's like it cannot happen. Like that would affect our relationship, right? So seeing those small details would also kind of understand how they treat people. Those are kind of like small red flags that I usually try to see out for people who kind of like talk big a lot. Nowadays when I see people like, when they start talking big, I know this guy is insecure, right? It's like, oh yeah, I have something big coming up. I have a software that's gonna raise $10 million, 20 million. I was like, okay, like where? It's like, oh, we can't show you because it's like, oh, da da da. I was like, okay, I already know.
Yeah.
There's no need to talk more, right? Because nowadays you see a lot of young cats. Like, they it's okay because like sometimes like, they feel they need to really pump themselves up to kind of like get into those rooms. It's understandable their actions, but those actions also means that they do not have the substance that they claim to be, right? So if I knew right from the start that Luke Belmar doesn't have the substance that he claims to be, I wouldn't get into business with him. Because why would I want to get into business with someone that doesn't have the capital or the experience that he has or he claims to have? Because I can find anyone to be a face. You know what I mean? Like the operator that's behind the scenes is the real, like you don't see like people running like the media companies, the bosses coming out being the face, or the celebrities. It's all ran by agencies from behind the scenes, the managers and whatnot that controls everything, right? So those are kind of like a few kind of like the top red flags for me, kind of like before I spot in business partnerships. And yeah.
And if someone is starting a business, how would you recommend them to decide if it's a good idea to bring a partner or not, regardless of like, so let's say someone's good, taking out the whole thing with red flags out of the equation. What should be the factor that someone's like, okay, I need to bring someone in and I need a business partner, or I can just go solo and do this by myself?
I think the question to ask is like, is it 1 + 1 = 3? You know, or is it 1 + 1 = 2? If it's more 3, then I think it's a good thing to explore. If it's only a 2, then like maybe you don't need a business partner. Maybe you need a better operator in your company that doesn't take significant equity in your company, right? It's easier to let go of someone who's like maybe a COO that only has like 1 or 2 or 5% of the company versus like a co-founder who owns like 30, 40, 50% of your company, right? So I would always explore to what extent is this partner valuable? Like, what kind of value is he bringing to the table? I think same as what we discussed just now. I would ask, okay, how many percent do you want? 20%? Okay, sure. Why do you want 20%? What are you bringing to the table so that we can get on the same page to understand the value that you bring to the table? It's not like, oh, I can do this. No. Get me clarity on why exactly. Like if I don't feel like, okay, let's say if the 20% is gonna bring me like, let's say, in my opinion, that's gonna bring like drastically like millions to the table, then sure, that justifies your value. Let's say I want to get into, let's say, supply chain business. Let's say I want to set up another fulfillment company, right? Okay, sure. If I'm funding it 100%, I need someone local. And if you already have existing infrastructure and you're in the business for the last 20 years that in supply chain fulfillment, right? And you're also putting in some money, sure. And you have all the resources that I need to run an operation within China without me managing 500 to 600 people. Sure, you have something that I don't, right? If you have something that I can easily replace with money, then there's not a lot of value in my opinion, right? Because like that can be replaced by employees, good business operators, essentially, without sacrificing too much equity in the business.
Besides fulfillment, which from what I understand from what you explain is your main thing right now, and I also, from something that I've seen on social media, I think you're also really deep into blockchain, AI, all that stuff. Is there any other future business trend or market that you find interesting that maybe you're not in yet, but you're eyeballing?
Oh, for sure. I love e-commerce, but I think I'm not at a stage where I want to build my own DTC right now. You know what I mean? We all know it's a lot of work, but DTC is something that I still feel passionate about. But when I find the right product, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to build something, right? But I want to make sure I build something that's aligned with my highest values, right? What I feel excited about is AI, right? Because with AI right now, I think there's a lot of opportunities to get into different verticals. For example, like I'm getting into consumer apps right now, right? AI consumer apps, because it's so much easier to build something right now than compared to like, in the past, right? So we're building something like I think we're gonna launch in within the next 3-4 weeks for our product, right? It's something in the health space, which is I'm very passionate about my health and fitness nowadays. So I'm building things that are not only related with the future, but it's also related to what my interests are and my values. So I feel like, oh shit, this is something helpful, right? And the reason why I like consumer apps and software is because like it's very scalable. And the potential asymmetric upside is huge if, let's say, this product goes viral, right? let's say if I have 10 million downloads, even without a strong monetization plan, with the amount of users, it's gonna be a really available company, which I could potentially exit. But we all know, like, sure, DTC is great, whatnot, but if your DTC doesn't have a good, like, percentage of people that's coming back every single year, or your retention is poor, your valuation is like what, 2, 3, 4x maximum. But if you're talking about software with good retention, you're talking about 5 to 10x valuation. So I don't even need, for example, let's say let's just look at things from a valuation standpoint, right? I don't need to build $100 million a year e-commerce business. I just need to build a $10 million a year software business. The exit would be around the same. If not, software might even have a better, like, valuation. Let's say if we do 10 million with software, you could easily do like a 5 to 10x. If, of course, you have good metrics and whatnot, a 5 to 10x based on revenue, right? But if you're doing DTC, you're probably 3 to 5x EBITDA. That's a big difference. A super big difference, right? Super big difference. So I was asking myself, like, shit, which one do I want? I want to have a symmetric big upside, right? Kind of like crypto and whatnot. I don't do a lot of crypto these days. Mine is just all like, I'm just investing for the future. Like, I have a big amount parked away just for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm not going to touch it for the next 10 years, right? I'm just going to set it aside. Hopefully Bitcoin goes to $1 million. Ethereum goes to like 20, 30K. That's kind of like my goals, right? But those money are parked aside that I'm not gonna touch. I don't even have, like, I don't even know what the price right now is Bitcoin. I don't care. I don't care if it goes up, goes down, because I'm looking at a 10-year time frame. That's my thesis, right? For AI, I think it's something that I'm extremely bullish about, right? So which is why I think my first step into like getting involved with AI is just using technology to help me build up products that normally that I can't get into, right? I don't want to work with a development company that's going to cost me a few $100,000 to develop an app. Right now, I just need 1 or 2 people that knows vibe coding to kind of really build out something. And the product that we're building, it took us a couple of months, but we're building it right. We're building it with like a proper app, with pretty good UI, good design, good product. And I'm just going to do it for free. Freemium, right? If people like my product, sure, you can upgrade to premium, but if not, like, just do it. Like, I can't do free products for DTC, but I can do a free app because like all my cost is just there, right? All I need to do is just probably sell like 1,000 premiums and I'll just break even. And anything that starts coming in on top is all just pure profit, right? I'm looking at probably like 70, 80%. Like all my actual cost is just Apple. That's it. Some server fees, some like, API calls from, OpenAI. We're technically looking at probably 50%, 60% net, right? Compared to ecom, which is like what, 15, 20% net, right? Which is 15, 20% net is really pretty good. Goddamn good for ecom, right? Yeah. So very different approach, especially after building Luke Belmar's personal brand through organic marketing. That can like open up like our confidence that, oh shit, we can also do like we can literally go into different markets using different strategies. Because last time, if you ask me, I don't know shit about organic marketing. Mm-hmm. Like we have never, like you never see me talk about organic marketing. Yeah. Now I could tell people, yeah, we did 3 billion views in 2 years, right? Did you crack it? Yeah, we fucking cracked it, right? And that gave me the confidence that, oh shit, Steve, you're not just an e-com guy, you're a business guy. That gave me the confidence that, yeah, if I could do this for someone, if I could bring another billion to my consumer app, yeah, I'm gonna have people start using my apps, right? So I think across this few years just gave me a lot more clarity into what I can do, my strengths, and the confidence to get into different verticals. I don't be just known as the e-com guy, yeah, right? I want to be known as like a business entrepreneur that I have an ecosystem of different plays, spreading across softwares. I think starting from e-com was pretty fun. Like, the software business, was pretty great. And when I saw like, oh, we can also start acquiring different business, it just kind of gets more and more fun with all these different companies that we kind of start working with. I think for me, the next steps would be like understanding what is the what is something fun that I want to do for the next 10 years. I haven't figured it out yet, to be honest. Like I'm at the stage where I just kind of exited Capital Club and a pretty toxic business relationship with Luke Belmar. So I'm kind of at the stage of like, thinking what's next. Right. But I think what's next for me right now is like building my personal brand, because now with more clarity into like over these years, I realized like, hey, if I was to do my brand my way, without the fluff, without the cars, without all this bullshit, I would like it. I'll enjoy meeting people. It's just who I am as a person offline versus online. I would do it because like it's just me, and I just feel fun. Being able to share value that could potentially make an impact in someone's life. It just gives me a lot of fulfillment, right? So when I recently did the meetup in Malaysia, I had people like I think you met him, Jake. Jake was at the Singapore event. Dude, he flew all the way from China.
Yeah.
Jake, yeah, he flew all the way like 6 hours to Malaysia just to meet me, and he brought me some like gifts for me, for Evan. I was like, dude, like this is the fulfillment
Yes.
that you can't get with no matter amount of money. And I asked, why do you fly here? And I was like, so I asked him a question: can I assume that I have in some way, shape, or form made an impact in your life or your business, which resulted you taking 6 hours just to fly here and just to meet me? He said, yeah, absolutely, yes. So I was like, dude, bro, you just made my day. And there's people flying from India, there's people flying from everywhere. Just it's a free event, bro. It's not even a paid event, right? So I was like, yeah, that energizes me in some ways that I can't explain. And I feel like if I could continuously do this without even thinking about being compensated or whichever, like that, obviously there's going to be a high-end masterminds or whichever. But yeah, I just do whatever fuck I want, like, and just be true to myself and be true to the amount of impact that I believe that I've done through like my community, through the Facebook group, right? And that recently, because of that drama, it gave me the clarity that I needed, because I received, I think, 4 to 5 thousand DMs during this whole drama from people that like I haven't spoken like in ages, like yourself. Everyone's like, hey, stay strong, bro. Like, thank you so much for like all your content in the past, the community, the screenshot, the stories, your content, it helped me started my journey, all these different stories. So that I didn't know all that, bro. I didn't actually know that. I know, yeah, sure, maybe I built my personal brand, but I didn't know like I had such a positive potential impact in a lot of people's lives. I was like, oh shit. So I was like, okay, if I must have done something right in the past. So I just need to continue doing what I did in the past in the way that I like, in the way that's authentic to me. Then yeah, it will be fun. Yeah, so that's kind of like some rambling there, but
No, I
you get the point.
100% agree. I love that perspective. That's exactly how I see it. Obviously, my brand is way smaller than yours, but when I get someone that comes back to me after we've worked one on one or something like that, and I can see that they tell me that there was a genuine and real impact that I had on them, that not just makes my day, but sometimes it even makes my week. So I 100% agree on that. It is incredible. It
Yeah.
is the most fulfilling thing, more than money, more than anything, by far. Just a few more questions. We don't have that much time left. Something that I usually like to ask people is if you like reading, and what are some of your favorite books that you would recommend to people?
I think I would definitely recommend this book for like people who are starting out. I think The Hard Think About Hard Things. It's by, I forgot his name, but he's like a very like he's by, I think the VC Anderson Horowitz or something. I forgot his full name. Anyways, um, I think it's important to know what you're getting into, because entrepreneurship is kind of like beautified in a lot of ways. It's like, oh, you need to become an entrepreneur to succeed. No, like, but a lot of people do not know what it takes to become an entrepreneur, right? How hard it is to become an entrepreneur. So I think in that book, it shows like how tough it is, like, the hard thing about being an entrepreneur. What are the things you need to sacrifice? What are the hours and things that you need to do? The other thing I think I would like people to read is Measure What Matters. Shit, I don't even remember those. Like, they're just amazing founders, right? Amazing. I just remember the book's name, but Measure What Matters basically shares a lot the concept of OKRs, right? It's important to understand that if you are clear with your objectives and key results, and you have a very strategic way of getting what you want, right? You're not going to be all over the place. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. No, you'll be very strategic on how you're going to get closer to your goals. It's like kind of setting a GPS point on your endpoint, and the journey there is your key results. That's gonna, if you clear out all the key results, you're gonna basically go from point A to point B, and the point B is basically your objective of how you're gonna get there. So I think you don't need to become a super expert right now, and there's absolutely like a lot of tools like ChatGPT to kind of help you map you out. But it's important to just at least understand the concept on how you could potentially bring it to your organization, or you kind of like use it for your personal life. I think those are kind of like top two books on my list for any entrepreneurs who are starting out, that will kind of help give more clarity into their business and to whatever they're doing in their business.
Okay, awesome. Is there any final message you want to share with the audience, some last piece of advice? And also, if you want to tell people where they can find you, follow you, anything you want to promote?
Sure. I think what I would like to share is, entrepreneurship is not easy, right? But there's absolutely a lot of fulfillment when you crushed it. But do enjoy the process, because life is all about exploration and having fun in the journey. But a lot of people just focus too much on the final destination, and they forgot to actually stop and kind of like check out the scenery when they're kind of like working towards their goals, and have fun. I think having fun is something that I've learned across the years that absolutely changed my perception towards a lot of things. So yeah, I think that's something that I would like to share. And yeah, people can just follow me on IG, X. My ID is Hey Steve Tan. It's pretty easy. So I don't have anything to sell. I'm just kind of like trying to build my personal brand, and hopefully in the future build something meaningful, a community for people, right? For people that has really made it, and somewhere that they could meet amazing, founders, entrepreneurs, builders across the digital space. And that's something that I feel pretty inspired to build towards too in the future. So yeah.
Awesome. I'll put on the links on the description so people can easily find you. And that's it, man. Thank you very much. Also wishing you a lot of luck with the lawsuit. Hopefully it's not gonna drag out for like years, and you can get it resolved. But yeah, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Paul. It was great catching up.